Welcome, Tina, to the Losses Become Gains podcast. I am so happy to have you here today. And I was looking forward to this conversation for a really long time. So I'm really excited to dig into this with you.
Thank you for having me, Tara. I really appreciate it. I'm excited for it too.
I know this is like probably maybe like our second or third or maybe like fourth conversation now. I don't know. We've had a lot of back and forth. I was on your
Yeah.
podcast, which of course we'll link all of that in the show notes. But yeah, I'm so excited to kind of um, just dig into this with you today and get to know
Yeah.
you better and share your story with everybody. So to get us started, I love to just ask people to just tell us a little bit about who you are, but also, just any fun facts, maybe outside of any loss or adversity that you have gone through.
So my name is Tina Hoang. I'm just here, just kind of living through life, really, and just accepting where life is. Like sometimes I like outside, like without like adversity and losses and everything, I honestly just trying to make the most of my life. Like I can't
Beautiful.
like yeah, like I just like there are days where I just feel kind of sad or just feeling like anxiety. And
Yeah.
so it's like, well, like what I'm trying to like live my life is just be more playful. I love being playful
I love that.
and just I also like love dancing too. And it's just like those like things traveling. So like those things that I just like I try to go towards and just be like, yes, this is what I want to live for the rest of my life. But gotta remember, I'm an adult. I have to be responsible, so I can't be playful all the time. And so,
It's such this
it's
balance. Adulting is so hard.
I know it's just like, oh, I just want to play all the
So
time,
same. I know.
but then we have to be responsible with all the bills and jobs and like being to be financially free. You gotta be you have to make money.
For
So
real. No, this okay. Literally, I love everything you just said. And I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off. I'm just so excited right now because this is one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on. In addition to pet loss, we'll get there. Like there's just some things we've bonded over, but I love everything you just said. And really from anybody listening here who's maybe struggling from like a grief perspective, but also just like with life in general, like that's the thing with this podcast is I want to welcome kind of everybody wherever they're at in life. And I love what you have been saying about like tapping into your inner child and having fun again, because it is so easy, again, loss or not, to get so caught up in the everyday and the mundane and the paying the bills. And, we can get so swamped with that or just whatever responsibilities we have. I know that differs for everybody. And I think it's so important to be able to like come out of that and take a breath and like discover ourselves again. And I was reading something, this is probably on like Instagram or whatever, but it was like and I actually don't know if you're in your 30s. I'm not going to assume that, but I'm 32. And it was just like your 30s are for rediscovering who you were when you were like, I think it was like 13. I could be making that up, but it's like, it's rediscovering and tapping into who you were at whatever age it was. And I was like, I am so here for this. Like, please, more of that in my life. So I
actually,
think it's just such a beautiful mindset that you have.
no, it's exactly what it is. I'm 31, and that
Oh,
I am tapping into. I'm tapping into like my inner child. Like now is the time. Now is the time to be
yes.
fun and free, and not. Because when we were in our 20s, it was like, okay, what do I do now? I don't
Mm.
know if we should act this way. How we gonna fit in? I mean, still, I think in our 20s, we still had to fit in. We felt like fit in our 20s. But I think once you reach your late 20s, you're like, I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm just gonna focus on myself.
Honestly.
Yeah, like yeah,
Yes,
it's
or
like
you
this is like
start giving less and less fucks basically, and you're
yes,
just like, I'm just gonna be who I am. But then,
yes.
and this is where for me, like the loss comes in. Is just like for those of us, and I definitely went through obviously two very major losses in my late 20s. So for me, not only was I just going into my late 20s, early 30s, like just that's just an interesting phase of life in general. But this is for anybody out there at any age that is maybe going through a loss or going through a hardship or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be the death of a person, even. It could be a divorce, whatever. Um, and you're kind of like, where do I start? Where do I go from here? I'm not super happy right now. Okay, how can I change this? How can I shift my mindset to be more hopeful and optimistic and more fun and just, just having a better balance. So that being said, so again, just tying this a little bit back to loss and grief, and that is one of the things you and I definitely kind of bonded over. Tell us a little bit about what your journey of loss and grief has been like in your own way, and just like what has this been like for you? What has come up for you during this process? And of course, just whatever you're comfortable sharing here.
Yeah, not at all. I think the first loss I like it really hit home for me was with my uncle. I know we talked about pet loss, but like that also like the next thing that hit. But like the first loss I had was my uncle
Mhm.
when I was 2000. It was 2005. So I think I was in middle school. I forgot how old I was. I was
Yeah.
in middle school, so it was our first loss. It's like a first loss that whom I was close to,
Mm.
very close to. Like we were practically neighbors down the street. Like he would come over, like he would ask us to come over and like go get KFC because it was nearby. It was 2005, like KFC. It was like it was our thing. Like go get chicken wings and
Yes.
eat after and just hang out. And then he would always call hang out with us. And it was just, like he was the glue to our whole extended family on my mom's side. He wasn't related, blood related. He was my aunt's husband. So my aunt is my mom's sister. And
Gotcha.
so he was like he just randomly in 1 month he he like at the beginning of June, I forget, June something, he went to a doctor and then he was diagnosed with leukemia.
Oh my
And
God.
then within 1 month he passed away in 20 in on the 27th of June.
So fast.
Yeah, so fast, and we didn't even know it was coming. And so the whole process of well, I was in middle school. I didn't know what was going on. I was like,
Right. That's
and I
such a crazy age to lose somebody.
yeah,
I lost my cousin in middle school too, and I was like, I don't even what is death really like at
yeah,
that point, Like you're starting to kind of put pieces together and make sense of it, but yeah, that's just oh my God.
yeah. I think like he was like the one that was very close to me. I mean, my grandpa passed away too when I think I was like 7 or 8, but that was even younger. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. I went to see him and I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, like
Okay, we're just like nodding. It's like, okay,
right.
I don't know what's going on because I don't know him. I wasn't close to him. Well, one because he was living in Vietnam.
Okay.
So we went over there to visit. And it just happened that he was passing away too. And
Gotcha.
then but then with my uncle was more close because we were here in America and we were neighbors, we were talking, and then just suddenly passed away. And then during the funeral too, my aunts they're all bald. Like it was
Oh my
it
God.
was a memory that stuck with me of like how like what kind of person he was to my family,
Yeah.
what kind of person he
Such a profound like impact.
yeah, very. And the fact that he just died so young. He was 45 when
Wow.
yeah. So he died pretty young and then I'm just like, okay. It's like now and then as people, gone, like friends and uncles and more, it it kind of hit home, not really hit home as much. Like even just recently, like just this past Monday, actually,
Oh my
who
God.
I wasn't very close to him, but a not classmate, we were in the same organization club in
Okay.
college,
Gotcha.
in college, and he just passed away this Monday.
Talk about young. Oh my God.
Yeah, he was 27,
Jeez.
and yeah, and I don't know how to do. I don't know how. I wasn't close with him, so I wasn't. I don't know how to react to that.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard to
And
know what to feel in those situations. It's almost like I don't want to compare him to a celebrity or anything like that,
yeah,
but it's almost like that when you maybe like know someone or someone more like theoretically, like you didn't like theoretically know him, like you did by
yeah,
association kind of, but like it's just you're just like wow, they were in my orbit. And I feel like so many people consider celebrities to be that. We might look to them or listen to their music or watch their movies when we're just it helps make us feel better or it makes us happy or whatever. It entertains us. And so we like bring them into our home kind of. And then when they die, we're just like, whoa, this is like really
yeah,
hitting me. It's like Princess Di is like a beautiful example of that I always think of. So yeah, I don't know. It's just, and you're kind of just like, huh, I'm kind of more like affected by this than I maybe thought I would be for not knowing this person super well. So yeah, I think so many people can probably relate to that.
I know we talked about it before, but I think with in 2018,
Mhm.
uh, three I had 3 deaths in May.
All
As
right, that's right. Yeah, okay,
because
quickly talk about that.
yeah, so in 2018, I in May, my my grandmother died. My old babysitter died or passed away. I should say died. And then my dog died. All like in the span of like May and then a little bit of June.
That's
And it was
insane.
just so funny too, because I couldn't visit her, my my babysitter, because
Mhm,
I was in Vietnam. And then I went to Vietnam for my cousin's wedding. And in that same trip, I went to my grandma's funeral because she was still alive when I was there too. Like I saw her, she was not doing well. Like she was
yeah.
bedridden. She was flat, as you like she was like considered like
Oh my gosh.
coma, like flat, like her whole body was just like flat
Yeah.
on the hospital bed. And it was just a lot for me to handle of like how do I handle all this,
Yeah.
and just the fact that, and it just this is kind of selfish in a sense, but I was hit more of losing my dog
Mhm,
than my grandma and then my babysitter,
mhm,
because one, my grandma was in Vietnam, so I never
mhm.
got close to her.
Right.
My grandma, I'm not grandma, my babysitter, I haven't seen her in a long time, so I had
Mhm.
memories of her. But
Sure.
first, I think like how I feel with animals in general, it just hits so much deeper than I feel with humans. And
Totally.
so when I lost my dog, I still, even it's been 6 years now,
I know. Mm,
2018 when I lost him.
yeah.
It's been 6 years. I still feel this day like it's
It
it's still there. I
right.
can
It's
like
like yesterday is I feel that way about my dog too. And like I know I've joked about this. Like this is what we were kind of like again, I keep saying bonding over, but like total trauma bonding right now.
yeah,
But like we
we're
are just
bonding
still
through
not
trauma.
over the deaths of our dogs and it's been a hot minute. And listen,
Yeah.
there is zero shame in that. I don't care. And
Yes.
what I also want to just quickly acknowledge for anybody else out there feeling like they like maybe they've lost a pet and they're just like, why am I like grieving this more than an actual human? That's fine. Like, give yourself permission, and like you said, like with your story, like these are people you hadn't maybe seen in a long time or didn't know super personally. So, of course, you might acknowledge it and it might affect you a little bit. And you're just like, oh, whoa, that's kind of like, oh my God. I mean, death isn't easy, of course, no matter who it is. But, animals are just so next level in some ways because they're just these beautiful, sweet little soul creatures that just like even when they do things wrong, they can do no wrong. And like and
Yeah.
they just well, and I always joke too, they don't talk back. They might bark, but they don't talk back. And they just support us, I feel
Yes.
like, in so many ways that we don't even like even fully realize until they're gone, right? Until we don't and
Yeah.
that's true for humans too. But I don't know. It's just the pet loss is it's one of the
Yeah.
reasons I wanted to have you come on because it's one of those things that's just not acknowledged nearly enough or it's not talked about. And also like, I mean, just the technical things, the logistical things, going back to work, like they're not going to give you 2 weeks off to mourn your dog, and at least not here in America. They're probably not like,
Yeah.
it's so just unacknowledged, and I remember feeling the need to go back very quickly, but I was like, a literal piece of my soul has been ripped out. Can I maybe get in a minute, like, longer? So, I don't know. I just wanna put that out there and acknowledge anybody here listening who has lost a pet of any form that is grappling with that and struggling with that. There is so much behind why we mourn pets in the way that we do, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It's no, it's like something about pets is just they're so pure. Like you said, like they
Yes.
can
Well
do
said.
no wrong. Like they can do no wrong with you. Like yeah, they talk, they bark back, they talk back,
They might
but
have
like
their
you said,
moments, but
yeah, there are moments, but all the time, like they just give you unconditional love,
yeah,
no matter like what you do or whatnot. And if they make a mistake, and you're like, they will love
they'll
you no
judge
matter
you.
what. And
Yeah.
they're always present with you. And that's what I
Mhm.
feel like when you're always you're thinking about whatever, and then you look at them, they're like wagging their tail. You're like,
Yeah.
hi mom,
They're
hi
just
dad.
here. They're
They're
like,
just
"What's up?"
here. Just in general, like I love animals and I love nature and just like anything that's the present moment.
Mhm.
I want to be more into that, like more like engulfed and indulged in those.
Yeah.
And so then that's why like losing animals, losing pets, just it's so heavy. I don't know, they can feel it
Yeah.
from me.
No,
And so
totally. No, the heaviness is that's a really good way of describing it. And actually that segues perfectly into something that I wanted to ask you. So, and this you can answer this however you want with either humans that you've lost or pets that you've lost or both. What is something about your losses that you found to be the most difficult or like is something that you were just like I did not feel warned enough about this? Like, whoa, this is way harder than I anticipated. Is there anything that comes to mind that was like especially hard?
yeah, I think like the miscommunication, like especially with
Mm.
my losing my dog, that was
Yeah, can you I know you've told me this story and we talked about it on your episode. Can you just like maybe I know it's like kind of painful to talk about, but can you
oh
just
no,
quickly
it's
tell
fine. Like
that
I don't mind.
story?
I don't. I mean, I'm totally fine. I'll probably. I don't mind crying too because I can. I'm
God,
still
let the tears
feeling
out.
like it's totally fine. Like I don't
It's
mind
just
it
so
because
it's sad to think about. But honestly, I think other people here listening have maybe gone through something like that. I went through my own version of it. So yeah, just whatever you're comfortable sharing.
so my dog, my his name is Charlie.
Mhm.
When we're saying his name, I'm like crying right now,
I
feeling it.
know.
I'm already
It's like,
feeling
oh,
it.
they're real. I forgot.
I know. Even when I see another dog named Charlie or anything
Mhm.
Charlie,
Like,
I just
damn.
want to cry. And then like so, anyways, so Charlie was already he was living with my parents then with my mom, and then like I don't know where I was living in Sacramento at the time, and so I didn't know what was going on. And then when I came home, he couldn't pee. Like, he would pee blood. He
Oh
was
my
peeing blood. And so what came out of it was that he was misdiagnosed with kidney stones or bladder stones. But the doctor, when they went to the doctor, I'm like, okay. So they gave him medication, and then I just took the bullet when I came back from Vietnam. So it was the same process, you guys. It's the same process, like my grandma and my babysitter at the same time. So I came
God.
home from Vietnam, already grieving from my grandma,
Mhm.
and then having to go take Charlie to a second doctor for a second opinion. And then that's when they diagnosed him with prostate cancer. And I was by myself. I had no one with me, with no one there to comfort me or anything. I did call people, but everyone was on a weekday, so everyone was working.
Well, that makes me
No
so
one
sad.
was there to be there for me. So I cried.
Yeah.
I cried a lot knowing the news. And just kind of quickly too, when my other dog right now, Teddy,
Mhm.
same process. He oh, I did not tell you this yet,
I
but
was gonna say
really
I've
like
heard some of this, but
yeah, so in May this year, I went to a doctor too. So to for Teddy, his brother,
Mhm.
same process of like he's not pooping very well. Can you like see what's going on? We took the X-ray and they found like spots of cancer in his prostate and in his lymph nodes and a little bit of in his chest. But
Maybe.
they had to go to the radiologist to just confirm and see. And when before that, before we moved it to the radiologist, I was in that room again by
Mhm.
myself,
Oh my
handling the
God.
news by myself. And I was just like, not again.
Talk about PTSD. Oh my God.
Yes, very much.
That's so
Like,
traumatic.
I was crying a lot,
Yeah.
so much. I was just like crying, crying, crying. I was like, why is this happening to me again? The same process again. Like I
Right.
wish someone was here. Thankfully, I had my partner with me, not with me, but I was able to call him at the
Mhm.
time to like
Just at
get me
least
through it.
something. Yeah.
Yes. And I was just like PTSD is the same thing again. Like what's going on? So like now it's okay with Teddy. I mean, it's definite now that he has terminal cancer,
Mm.
but going back with Charlie, it's the process of it, of like what to do next, thinking that I need to put him down. Like he can't even walk anymore. He was flat
Right.
as a
That
board.
quality of life is just not there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was time. It was
Mhm.
time to it was time for him to go. And I couldn't handle it anymore. And the last minute, my parents came up, my mom came up, and we went together to go euthanize. But in the last moment, my mom saw in his eyes, Charlie's eyes, like she saw hope. She saw hope, like maybe she could do something.
Chills, probably.
Yeah, and then at the time too, well, I'm recovering from people pleasing. But
Mhm.
at the time, like I believed my mom. I was like, okay, I couldn't choose for myself. I was just so emotional. I was just like, okay, my mom knows best. Okay, let's give Charlie to her and he'll bring him home. And I told her, my mom, she can't handle death at all. She can't. Not at all.
Yeah.
But so I told her, if you were to give if you were planning to euthanize and put him down, like please let me know.
Have to tell me. Yeah.
Tell me tell me so that I could go home and be there with him.
With him,
Like,
yeah.
be there with him. And I told her so many times. And then so when I was like, I came home June 10th. I was like, okay, let's go home. I was leaving Sacramento. She was in the Bay Area, so it was only an hour and a half.
Mhm.
It's like it's an hour and a half, so I can go home. It's fine. Like I don't care. Like I'll go home, call off work, whatever. I go home to be in the hospital or in that room with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when I came home on June 10th, I asked her, like, we went out to get lunch. I asked her, I was like, hey, how's Charlie doing? Like, how's he doing? And she's like, oh, we put him down on Wednesday, June 6th. June 6th. And I was like,
And this is days later.
yeah,
They didn't
days later after I told
specifically asked to be there.
repeatedly, yes. And that's not even the sad part. That's
It's
not
not?
even no. That's not even like this it's worse.
I am unwell. Okay. Keep going.
What's worse was that no one was with him when the doctor gave him the shot.
Mhm.
No one was with him. There was because apparently there was a miscommunication. My my mom's partner at the time, he she told him to take him to get him euthanized. And then he just gave him to the doctor and not be there with him. And because I was like, for a little while, like, I didn't understand. So I was like grieving. And when I asked him, like, so were you there with him when he passed? Like, no, I just gave him to the doctor. And then I was so mad. I was
I don't blame
so,
you.
so mad.
I
It
don't
was,
think I could talk to her for a very long time. I don't know. One of the things I definitely want to ask you, and like, please feel free to talk about this if you're comfortable, is like how you forgive someone after that, how you
I
move
don't,
on from that to where your relationship is like, okay, because that is like, there's a lot of red flags. And I'm not trying to like, shit on your mom here or anything, but it's just like, that is a complete betrayal of trust. That is just not respecting your wishes with this sweet animal that's yours. Like you completely expressed your wishes and desires to be there and and just to have that ignored, I mean, forgiveness is an amazing thing, but that must have been very hard to come by for you.
I
Imagine.
don't know if I have forgiven her. I
Yeah.
don't know. Actually,
Mhm. It's a work in
no,
progress
I
for me.
haven't, but it's been suppressed because I feel
Mhm.
like I just have to move on, in a way of like moving on with, because I think I talked about it with her, and then my relationship with mom, it's like very rocky in
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sense. But so I just kind of like, also my family is broken. So it's also like that kind of too, where it's like I'm not close with my dad at all. And I have my mom and she's been here, whereas my dad's not here.
Right.
So it's kind of like that, where I was like making the decision of I don't want to lose her in that sense
Of
of,
course, yeah.
yeah. And so no, yeah, I have thinking about it again, I have not forgiven her, but I'd have suppressed it
Mhm.
down here. And so I just like leave it where it is. But yeah, and that's probably why, like, it's like I'm still crying 5 years, 6 years later, I'm still
Yeah,
crying now because I think it's still there. It's still
of course.
losing. Yeah, and then the fact that now his brother, and that was the epitome of like why I'm so stronghold with my
Mhm.
dog now
Mhm.
is I will be here no
Absolutely.
matter what. Like I will be here for him, like no matter how much, like even now my tears now is for him.
Yes.
But it's like now is like, it's like I will be there for
Just come
him. No,
hell or high water, you will not leave that dog. Yeah.
yeah, I will not leave him at all. Like no matter how much. I mean, I've noticed like now, even right now, I've noticed my behavior is like I'm distance. I'm avoiding him, like I'm avoiding my dog, like being with him, being there with him, and just being like playful with him because it's that distance of not being scared of death, but it's more
Mhm.
like the pain of,
Absolutely. That is so common. That's
yeah,
so common.
yeah,
Yeah. Which it's so heartbreaking because you're just like, "Oh my god, I'm not." I think most people, it's like, "We're not trying to do this on purpose. I'm not try like, I know you need me there, but, like, we're it's a def I think it's a defense mechanism." Like, I'm pretty sure, looking back on it, I did that with both of my parents as well, and, again, just for anybody here who has gone through this with a pet, who was not there when they died, I mean, I'm gonna say it to you, but I just wanna say it to anybody else, release and surrender that guilt because I was there with my dog until the very last minute. I could not be in the room with her when she died. I had lost both parents the year prior. I was like, I've seen my death quota. I think I've met it for now, and I couldn't do it. And I just, that your situation is just heart-wrenching to me because that was robbed from you. That's where our situations differ, right? Like I was just doing the best I could at the time. Did I have some regrets about that? Yes, I did, but the state of my dog, she was not with it. Like but then you hear these situations sometimes where like the dogs were looking for their owners as they were about to be put down. I mean, that I literally can't even think about that, to be honest with you, if that was maybe her. Um, but I also try and give myself grace because I'm like, you know what? You have been through a lot. And even if you hadn't been through a lot before something like this happens, like death is painful. This is one of the reasons that people don't want to talk about it and avoid it because it's freaking sucks, right?
yeah,
But no, I mean, with your situation with that, I don't know. I mean, just so much of it was robbed from you. But I think what you're doing now, you're defending this beautiful little dog that you do have with all of your might. You will not let it happen again. You know what I mean? Like you learned from that. And it's a lesson that I feel so badly that you like had to learn. You didn't ask to learn that, right?
yeah,
But now you're just like, I'm doing things differently. And that's all we can do really when it
yeah,
comes to moving forward, like with decisions that we make in the moment, right? Me not being able to be there for my dog, or you having that decision stripped from you. Either way, we learn something from things like
yeah,
that. And all we can do is make better decisions, or we handle things differently and we release, some of these things that we're holding on to. But that is easier said than done.
yeah,
And that can take a long time. And even if
yeah,
you like kind of feel like you've moved past a little bit, those things can pop up every once in a while. And and just allowing for that to happen. And,
Yeah.
it's all part of the human experience. So,
Yeah. And then I can agree with you said about like just giving yourself grace with like I mean, you lost both your parents and then suddenly your dog too. And like you said, you met your quota.
I mean, I feel I have personally,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I
I
guess
mean,
the
like, and also like,
universe we'll see. But
yeah, but I mean, like, personally, like, it makes sense because it's it's I mean, hard is not even the right word. Like,
yeah,
there's so
I
many
know.
every
It's
year
like,
without.
but we could just say it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard, and I mean, yeah, like you said, letting go of the guilt, of
It's so
your
difficult.
your mind was at its capacity at the time.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, not being and the things that like you said, our stories are different. Like I was robbed. Like I
Yeah.
was not able to
1000%.
do that. Like and you made the decision at the time when you like it was the best decision you could for yourself
Yeah.
and what your capacity was, and so either one it's like nor right or wrong, it's just how it happened. And yeah,
Just
like it
circumstances.
was a hard freaking lesson that I had to learn. It's like, yep, this and then but then like things that thing gave me more passion because also losing him too helped me become more passionate with animals too.
Mm,
It actually helped me
I
with
love
it.
that.
And so it's even though how I was able to be there and then losing him,
Mhm.
it did help me become more compassionate and being more loving with animals because then I was like, oh, animals, pets, they just they're just
They're
not a
just
family
there. Some
member.
people are like, they don't have souls or whatever the belief is, some of which
Yes.
I
Or
agree
like
with,
they
some
should
of
just
which I
be
don't. But
outside. Like yeah, they should just be outside. Like who cares? Like they're just a pet. They're
yeah.
just a pet,
Right. It's like,
and that was my
mm,
mindset for a while. And so the fact that losing him really did change that for me of how I view animals now. So yeah, both hand in hand, like am still devastated for losing
of
him
course.
to this day. I think I'm more devastated of how I lost him versus losing him himself.
That makes total sense. With all of that being said, what advice or guidance would you give fellow grievers who are going through some sort of grief or adversity or just are experiencing either a recent loss or perhaps a loss from 5 or 6 years ago, right? But are still struggling? Do you have maybe just like two or three just high level pieces of advice that you would give somebody
Mm.
who's having a tough time?
I also like before I answer that, I also like I think I also want to include it doesn't even have to be someone you're losing like already that they're gone, but it
Yeah.
could be just in the process, like the anticipation of losing. Like my dog, like he's still
Yes.
alive, but he has terminal cancer. So
Okay,
I'm
please or
also
answer that too with the anticipatory. I am all here for the anticipatory grief because I've gone through it. I have a podcast episode on this. Like that's also super important. So actually, yeah, however you want to answer that, or if you have maybe like a tip for both, like with
yes,
anticipatory grief and then after the fact, like however you want to answer that, yeah,
yeah.
love it.
So when I lost, so like great advice for losing my dog. I think this is just geared towards like pet loss
Mhm.
overall.
That's fine. Yeah.
I think is just like one of the things I think appreciate all animals. That's what I would
Mhm.
give like losing a pet.
Yeah.
It's just that's what I've learned losing my dogs. Like we just talked to it right now. Like
Right.
I'm appreciating animals more often now. Like not taking them for granted,
Mhm.
loving all animals. Okay, maybe like like snakes and spiders. I'm so scared of them, but like
I'm so in line with that. I'm like, snakes can go to a different planet as far as I'm
yeah.
concerned, but everything else, I'll love it. It's fine. Maybe mosquitoes too, but yeah,
Yes.
kind of.
But yeah, I think that's
That's
like
a
the
good
thing
point.
about losing an animal or losing a pet is just learning to appreciate them as they were,
Mm.
loving that they're not just animals. Not the key word is just. They're
Yes,
not just.
I agree.
They
That
are
really
loving.
minimizes their
Yes.
impact and like
Yes.
them and their experience. They are just as worthy of being here as we are.
Yes.
So yes, I love that.
Yes. No, they're not just. They're not just an animal. They're not just a pet. They are living creatures that has a heart has a soul, has feelings, has emotions. But like just loving and appreciating all animals as they are,
Mhm.
losing them, like because they're not just, that's hard.
I know, right?
Is Well, the thing was like to not run away. Be
That's
there.
beautiful advice. Yeah.
Yeah. Just don't run away. Don't distract yourself all the time. There'll be moments, so it's okay to distract.
Yeah.
But from my own experience, you lose that connection with that person, with that animal, with that pet. Don't run away. Be
Yeah.
there. They want you there with them, no matter what they're going through it, and they want someone there with them. Don't run.
Yeah.
Stay. So
So that's amazing. It's one of the most selfless things we can do, and it takes a lot of presence. I know you've talked about presence already, and I love that. And I'm so glad you brought that up. It takes a lot of presence. It takes a lot of patience and like checking in with ourselves too. And I definitely want to mention, like, with the anticipatory part, like making sure we're prioritizing our mental health and our self care. And you know what I mean? I think I literally said this in my episode was like, be selfless in being there for them and realizing that this is kind of about them right now. You don't know how much longer you'll have, and then your life is entirely going to change. So just like embrace it, be present, but then be just selfish enough to know when you need to take a moment. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's just this delicate balance of like of being there and not running away, but also quietly taking that time for yourself. And I know how hard this can be for like probably parents out there. Like you have kids, you have a job, you have a million things going on. And I always want to acknowledge that because I know for some people that just seems near impossible and you are like just hanging by the thinnest of threads. But
Yes.
um
No, I
no,
can't
I
agree
think
more with
that's
that.
amazing, amazing advice. And I think it is something a lot of people are, I'm going to say guilty of. And I don't want to say guilty in a bad way. It is, again, just a very human response to pain. We don't, and then like getting closer to them can sometimes make us feel, it hurts. It's just like, oh my gosh, I'm losing it. Like we almost like back away. So when the loss actually happens, it's like just a little less painful. But
Yeah.
in retrospect, I would give the same exact advice. Like,
Yeah.
just
I mean, I
just
agree with
go
you
all in.
too. It's like I agree with you too. Like there's that really fine balance of being selfless
Yeah.
and then being selfish in that regard because
Mhm.
yeah, because if you give yourself full heartedly to the person who's about to be gone soon or who's gonna die soon,
Right.
and you put your whole heart, like you lose yourself of like, am I feeling okay? Like you said, checking in with
Right.
yourself, you
Yeah.
know? And no, I totally agree with that too. It's just like check in with yourself. Are you
Mhm.
okay right now? Do you need some space for yourself to kind of relieve yourself a moment and then come back for them?
Absolutely.
You know,
Yes.
just
Asking
yeah.
those questions, and that's tough, and sometimes you might not know, and that's okay too, and you're just like,
Mm.
"I don't freaking know what I need right now." But just,
Yeah.
I just encourage people to, like, really sit on it, keep checking in with yourself, and if
Mhm.
nothing else, just make sure to, like, take deep breaths and just, like, go sit in your car if you like, your house is chaotic or something, like, just go out and just take 5 or 10 minutes and be like, "Okay, what do I really need?" And your intuition, like, your gut will tell you what feels good and what doesn't, right? And then like if there are any regrets or there's guilt or over how we handled something in when someone was in the process of dying or when you're losing something or whatever, like again, just because that sometimes doesn't come right away. That might come with some retrospect and things like that. Like that's what retrospect is, right? We don't know what we don't know in the moment. And so sometimes it takes us a little while after a loss or a hardship or something happens where we're just like, "Oh, I would have handled that differently." Yeah, I hope we almost have those realizations because we're growing, we're evolving human beings. So if we're not having those realizations, then we're not growing and learning and evolving. So
Mhm.
it sucks and it's painful, but those are really beautiful aha moments to have. And that's where I always encourage people like give yourself grace for those moments because yeah, it sucks sometimes, but that's like the most beautiful gift that you can give yourself in life and that these people or these pets or whatever that we lose, have kind of given us too,
Yes.
all these learnings. Yeah. All right. Well, to start wrapping this up, because this is losses become gains, you have made a amazing gain from your losses and just like this beautiful evolution that you're going through in your life. So again, I mentioned that I have been on your podcast before as well. So I just want to close this out by asking you, like, how did you come to create the Courageous Inner Beast? And again, this will all be linked. How did you create that and what is your mission?
I came to create that because it's my own personal life of me feeling scared all the time, and like not doing what I want to do. And I just decided, okay, the courageous part of saying when I'm scared or frightened or even just paralyzed, or even someone tell me that I can't do it,
Mhm.
I just tell them, well, not. I was like, fuck it,
At least in
I
your
want to
head,
do
you're
it
just like,
anyway.
watch me.
Yeah, I want to do whatever I want to do. And so that is where the podcast came about of just doing it. I don't know how it's gonna go. I don't know where it's gonna go, but I'm gonna keep doing it, having guests come up and just talk their story. Mainly women. So our mission is to have women share their story. Period.
Love it.
That's it. And whatever story that is, and making sure that, of course, as a host, I want to, we have a vibe. Like me and Tara, like we have a vibe, and I love
Yeah, we
it,
do.
And so, like it's so like, even if a person, even if a woman has a great story, and then somehow our vibe is not meshing well, it's going to be hard to keep the conversation going.
Sure.
So, but I always want all women to share their story, and it's it's a page turner of like hearing their stories.
Yes, you have had some incredible guests. And like, again, I know the focus here has been a lot of like loss and grief because that's what this podcast is. But like, go check out some of her other episodes because these stories, like, again, there's so many different aspects to life and things that, these women will bring to the table that you're just like, whoa, this is so impactful. I needed this today. So, yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Absolutely. No, it's so true. I love what you're doing. Your mission is like so even though we're kind of approaching it differently, it's so aligned with like where my mind is and just, this is why I bring people like you on, right? To share stories and to just make people feel less alone, to make them feel empowered, to make them feel all sorts of warm, fuzzy, positive feelings.
Thank you, Tara. And I mean, same goes for you too. It's like we talked about it before. Like we're scared to talk about death,
Yes.
and we're scared. And when you were on mine, like we were talking about like no normalizing it,
Yeah.
normalizing like,
Here for
hey,
that.
like I cried. Like this is the first time I cried in front of not like as a guest. It's like
Embrace it.
embracing it and just enjoy, like not enjoying it, but just enjoying the process of what went through. And for your podcast, giving that space for us to just share our story of what happened in our life, the the losses that we had, and the people, the pets, whatever being,
Mhm.
even losing a tree that we really love, losing. I think
Yeah.
I was watching, I think it's random, this is so random, but I was like watching a TV show where like a tree represent like their mother, and someone cut that tree.
Oh, see,
You
that
know,
has so much significance at the end. I know some
yeah,
people might be like, "Well, who cares? It's a freaking tree." No, you don't
right.
understand. Like, we attach meanings to things, and that's so painful.
Yeah, and that's why I love your podcast too, like what you're going for, like just having people come here and share their story of their losses, because like you said, we don't talk about it because it's a hush hush conversation. It's like too painful,
Yep.
too
It's
like
uncomfortable.
depressing or uncomfortable. Like, why are you talking about that? Like they're gone. Like move
I know.
on. And it's like, bro, no, let me talk about it, okay? Let me talk about it. And because I want to. Can you
It's
but the thing's like,
liberating. Yeah.
yeah, and the things like, can that other person hold this? That's all thing. I think that's also the other thing too is not a lot of people can hold that space because
Mm.
they're scared that will bring up something in their own. And
Yes. Oh
so,
my gosh, great point.
yeah,
Yeah. Which makes
it,
total sense. I mean, that is logical. But
yes,
again, I feel like but that's the funny thing about grief and loss and stuff. The more you talk about it, the more okay you become with it. Like the more
hmm,
you just realize it's about relating to people. We're all here, we're all going through life and we're all going through death.
yes,
well, I'm not gonna say what's the big deal because it's a big deal, but it's like, well, I mean, why suppress it? What yeah,
Mhm.
the pain is pain, but so
Yes.
is joy. Joy is,
Yes.
this is like the emotions that we have to feel. So the numbing, the suppressing, the all the things, it's just it does more harm than good. I will just put it that
Yeah.
way. And again, just everything that you have created from everything you've been through and just like even outside of your grief and loss, just your experiences in life and what you are putting out into the world is like magnificent, speaking of. So I love
Thank
it so much
you.
and I just really enjoyed having you here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me and just letting me holding the space for me to share
Mhm.
my stories too, and I really appreciate that a lot. It's also like the first time I talked about my dog
Oh
in
my
two,
God.
so like at least
I'm
like
honored.
and I was like, oh,
Seriously.
like I said, like right now I'm still feeling like the
Feeling the
snots coming
feels.
off my nose right now. still, I'm still
Oh,
like,
what a beautiful way to honor Charlie though,
yeah,
and
thank you. It is,
Teddy and all the dogs, all the dogs, all the cats, all the
yes,
animals except snakes,
it's
and yeah.
yeah. So I really appreciate having this time to talk about him,
Yeah.
in memory of him, knowing that he was loved and that
Mhm.
he was here, and so and I haven't cried about him in a while because I've been suppressing it for so long. So
Oh, I hope it felt kind of good to let it out maybe.
yeah, and then also I think it's also like a healing process for me too right now as I'm
Yes.
talking with you.
Yeah,
Like,
it's cathartic. It is so cathartic for
yes,
sure.
it is. And
Yeah,
so
this is
thank
why
you.
grief coaches are helpful, you guys. This is why I do what I
Yes,
do. I'm telling you, like, you don't know sometimes. Yeah, I can bring up a lot of painful emotions, but you don't realize how healing it is until you get over that hump. So that is what we're all about here. And you are helping so many people by sharing what you shared today. So just again, from
thank
the
you.
bottom of my heart, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you for having me.
Of course.